Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. I'm thrilled to be able to share this next episode with you. I've got Charles and Anthony Bracco of Modern Plumbing Industries out of Orlando, Florida on the show today. These guys, they're not skilled trade social media influencers or any of the guys that you'll find, with huge online presences. No, they are real, genuine entrepreneurs who focus on and have built and run an incredible plumbing business. Their humility and their authenticity shine through in this episode almost as much as the passion they have for their people. So tune in to hear all about how they ended up joining the family business by taking over their father's plumbing company after he retired and continued to instill the ever-important values and ethics that have been the company's reputation since day one. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at bitnw.academy to receive all the latest updates. You can now find this podcast on iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and Pandora. As always, we rely on word of mouth from our listeners to further this mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please take a minute to rate it, review it, and share it. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. Also, if you're looking to advance your blue-collar career or propel your business, please be sure to check out the brand new Blue is the New White Academy at bitnw.academy. That's bitnw.academy. Thank you again and enjoy this episode of Blue is the New White with Charles and Anthony Bracco. I'm super excited for my guests today. We've been trying to get them on the show for a couple of months now, but as we know, things tend to happen in the skilled trades. We get busy, right? But we are finally here. We're all together, and I'm excited to talk with them and share their incredible story. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners that are tuning in today. So enough of me talking. Anthony, Charles, welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast, my friends.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to it, guys. So you know how we like to start the show. Anthony, well, let's start with you, man. If you want to kind of give us a rundown on who you are, where you came from, and how you got to where you are today, that would be awesome.
Okay, so I'm Anthony Bracco. Currently I'm the operations manager at Modern Plumbing Industries. I went to school at the University of South Florida, and then around the same time. Around the time I was graduating, the founder of our company, who also happens to be our father, told us that, hey, we had an opportunity to come back and learn the trade if we wanted to be involved in it. Never forced us into the business, never, just wanted us to be passionate about whatever we did in life. So we gave it a try. So when I first came on board, I was kind of, I pretty much sat in every seat in the company except Charles's. So, and I don't necessarily want to, but I've sat in the service manager role, ran our schedules, sat in estimating. Pretty much over the course of about 10 years, I kind of cut my teeth on a bunch of different stuff. And, when it was all said and done, at the time I didn't really see, how I was gaining knowledge and stuff like that. But when it all came together and I looked back, it was like, man, well, now I've got a really good, experience to draw on, and I think in our business, experience is key. There's just certain things that, that need to be learned through trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Yeah. So a quick question for you. What'd you go to school for?
I have a marketing degree, believe it or not, but I was really just to see what would get me out of there the fastest. I was I was closest to that degree. So, psychology was another 15 credit hours, and I was like, yeah, forget about it. So
nice, man. I like to ask everybody about that. So what about before school? You said your dad was the founder of the company, and Charles, maybe you want to chime in on this one, but what was it like growing up? I mean, was you said the trade wasn't really pushed on you, but what was the perception around what your dad did?
Well, that's pretty interesting, because I was just thinking about, our dad was very humble. He'd always just be like, well, I'm just a plumber. But the reality of it is, and we obviously didn't realize this till much later in life, Very, very talented and skilled plumber, but also a business person and a very astute business person. He never went to college. If he had, I believe he felt that he probably would have gotten a little bit further along earlier in his career. But he was blessed that he surrounded himself with a lot of extremely intelligent people with business. I know, I think his insurance agent was one of his best friends, and he taught him a lot about business. He always felt very strongly about bringing in consultants or joining or being involved in different trade organizations, like Associated Builders and Contractors and PHCC. And I think all of that helps kind of allowing him to evolve as a business person and as a leader in the community. But, for me, I started working here when I was probably 15, sweeping the floors and stocking shelves and stuff like that. Never really thought that, I was going to come back, or actually I spent most of my life trying to get away from here. And finally, like Anthony said, when he sat us down and mentioned that he wanted to know if we were interested in coming back, it occurred to me that I always, even though I didn't realize it, maybe I felt like it was my obligation to come back and see what I could do to help our dad, get this stuff out of his head about how he created and ran this business and turn it into something that could be passed on from his head to other people so that hopefully they could replicate his results. And it turned out to be a very good personal decision moving home as well. So,
right.
That's interesting. So you said it felt like it was an obligation. Obviously, maybe not like growing up, but after you reached a certain age, right? You kind of felt like, hey, your dad built this, and now you have the opportunity to take it even further. Is that kind of, did I hear that correct?
Well, not really to take it further, but to help. Our dad, very, very gifted and talented from learning stuff on his own, but not always the best at being able to explain it and take stuff out of his head and put it into processes so other people could replicate and get the same desired results. And our parents taught us, we were raised with very strong family values. And me personally, I had some health issues when I was a kid. And I think if I look back, most of why I tried to get away had nothing to do with the family and the business, had more so to do with my own shit, which eventually, as you work through, you're like, man, I'm really blessed to have my parents. They were great parents. They taught us a lot. And if I have a skill set that can help my dad, then that's what I should be doing. Like, that's what I think any good son or good family person or kid learns to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And to be clear, Charles, what's your position in the company now?
I try to fly under the radar with general manager, but technically it's president, and even Anthony's technically vice president of contracting. So,
okay, general manager / president. Got it.
No, yeah, my friends keep telling me, you got to lose the GM thing and just say you're president.
You know what? I get that. I love that. I respect that a lot. I mean, my dad is still heavily involved in the business today. I shouldn't say heavily involved. He's definitely involved, right? He's the check writer. I don't know that he's ever going to give that up, right? He wants to make sure that he sees where the money's going, which I really love. But his business cards, all the way up until he stopped carrying business cards, always said service technician.
Exactly. That's awesome.
And so,
humble.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned that too, and I get that from both of you, right? But that's kind of a trait that I notice in the trades is, I think part of the perception, and I don't know, feel free to chime in, I could be completely wrong, but I think part of the perception is there are a lot of humble people in these trades, in these industries, right? So, I mean, maybe some of these plumbers can afford Mercedes, right? But they're out there driving pickup trucks. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like they're flaunting, any successes that they have achieved, and listen, I'm not speaking for everybody, of course.
Right.
But, largely I've noticed that as a trend across the industries. It's just the humility, that comes with being, I don't know if it's just working with your hands, having a sense of accomplishment every day, or sharing it with your family. You don't need anything else. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's probably a combination of all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony, question for you. You got out of school, you went to school for marketing, came and started working in the business. One of the things I say is, sometimes in the trades, we get into the trade by accident, but we stay on purpose. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think you had mentioned you weren't sure if you were going to come into the business, but then you ended up coming into the business. What made you stay?
So, I mean, really, for me, it was, similar to Charles. Like, I did feel a little obligation. My dad, really worked hard to get where he was at in life, and he sacrificed a lot for our family to get, where he got us. I just kind of felt like, part of my motivation for staying was, hey, I can give him an opportunity to enjoy some of his life now, because he's given me so many opportunities that he didn't have. And I just felt pretty strongly about that. Additionally, I like the people in construction. I think they're, down to earth for the most part. There's always the exception to the rule, but, one of the things that, Frank was our father, or is our father, but he, one of the things he told both of us when we came in here, because, he didn't want us to, it was very important we didn't fuck up his name, excuse my language, but so we had to prove our worth, and one of the things I remember him telling us was, like for me as like, a PM or whatever, when I got to that point, he goes, he specifically said, he's like, you don't make any money for this company, like as a PM, because my dad was a field guy. That's what he did. And he said, your whole purpose is to support the field. It's to go out there and help those guys move, because they're the ones that really make the money for the contractor. So that's something that we've kind of injected into our team members as time goes on, because, at the end of the day, that it's the truth. You know what I mean? All I do is push paper. I cost the company money, so.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And I want to I've got two things I want to pick out of here, but I'm going to focus on that one first, right? Any good business knows that you need two things, right? You need product and you need support for that product. In the skilled trades, often that product is a service, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about here. And you have these you hear about these feuds or these rivalries, right, between the field and the office. In these industries, you guys are smiling like, yeah, you get it, right? And
we definitely know.
Yeah. But the truth is, one can't operate without the other, right? And so it truly is a collective effort. And I love that that you kind of framed it so black and white, right? As a project manager or an admin or anybody that's in this support role, they're overhead. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? They're overhead for the business, and they leave that the income, the ROI, the production to everybody that's in service, everybody that's in the field. They are responsible for generating everything that the company needs to survive, including that support staff. Right?
Yeah.
100%.
So I guess if I got to pull a question out of there, right?
Okay.
I'm just kind of talking, right? But
yeah, no worries.
If I got to pull a question out of there, it's how do you get the entire company to understand that the product and the support aren't working independently, that they're actually working together?
I mean, that's not something that's easy to do, because oftentimes in a contracting business, it's kind of already ingrained that way. For me personally, it's anybody that I or trains under me is explaining to them exactly what my father explained to me, and that's don't mistake it for what it is. Like it used to be that the PM, everybody wanted to become a PM, because that's like the glamour, and supposedly you're making better dollars and all that stuff. What I'm seeing is that's coming completely full circle. So to me as a subcontractor, there's a little knowledge gap sometimes on the general contracting side, because a lot of these guys are learning. There's so much experience that left the industry during COVID that just hasn't been replaced. And like I said earlier, in contracting and in building, you have to learn through experience. There is no substitute for experience. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but but in general, I think it's critical that you just kind of ingrain that in the people that are in the office, that they're here for support. And then I also think it's important to value and appreciate your field team any chance you can possibly do that. I mean, at the end of the day, what we do as plumbing contractors is not easy. It's very, there are probably, a new challenge every day or whatever. And these guys seem to overcome it and just always persevere through things. And I just think it's fantastic. I think they don't, as much recognition as we try to give, I still don't think they get enough.
Yeah.
I think as the field support team, I mean, our number one job is to try to make things as efficient and effective for the team out there in the field, right? I mean, that's how you're going to maximize your profit is, how do we keep the team in the office as thin as possible and do everything and anything we can to allow them to be as efficient and effective as possible.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good and succinct way to put it. I like that a lot. And, to your point too, Anthony, you're right. The recognition in the field is huge. It's important, and as my dad says, right, it's not just a job, it's an adventure every day. And he ingrained that in me, from the day that I set foot on the job. He was like, listen, it's different out there, and it is, and it's important that we all recognize that. So thank you for that. So, Charles, I want to pick on you a little bit here. So, a result of kind of something that Anthony had said, he talked about the reputation that your dad built, which I think that reputation is something important to talk about, right? Because at the end of the day, reputation it's us, it's the business, it's everything. Without reputation, you're sunk, you're dead, right? So what are some, first of all, what's the reputation of your business?
That's a good question. We have multiple reputations, and I think, all of this is kind of ingrained. And our grandpa used to tell our dad this, and our dad told us this, which is, I gave you two things. It's your name and your credit. Don't fuck either one of them up. So, from a business standpoint, we have a reputation for performance, giving quality products. Always being somebody that you could count on, being people of our word, having integrity. You might not always like what we have to tell you, but we're going to shoot you straight. And I think that, some of the things, especially in the service business, is, especially with online now and all these reviews, I mean, ratings, reputation is everything. And so, sometimes some people may feel like a customer's taking advantage of you, and sometimes maybe they are, but you got to think about, is $50 worth, getting bad reviews over? Not that you should let people walk all over you, because you got to have backbone, but there's this balancing act nowadays. Now that you got like Google reviews, Yelp reviews, it's crazy how the world has shifted and changed. But we're typically called on the construction side, on Anthony's side, to do the more complicated jobs in town where performance matters and price is not necessarily. It's always a factor, but it's not always the deciding factor. And then on the service side, I think the larger that you get, you're really selling depth versus just one person, right? And once again, I guess that kind of goes with performance as well. Customer service is everything on the service side. It is that way on the construction side as well, but sometimes on the construction side, you got to have a little bit more backbone and be willing to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get walked all over.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, and honestly, like service, delivering good service really just boils down to communicating with the customer, doing what you say you're going to do, and, making them feel, just comfortable with what you've done in their home or business or whatever. And, so many, sometimes I hear all the time that, people are like, oh, you guys showed up on time and you did. I'm like, well, that's kind of what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? That's the whole deal, right? So we do put a heavy focus on the customer experience. So whatever somebody's expectation is, you try to exceed it, particularly if you make a mistake. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, but it's just like you get served a bad meal in a restaurant or something. It's how the manager takes care of it that determines if you go back or not, right? And I think whatever your expectation is, for us to take care of it on the service side, we're gonna do that and then some,
Yeah.
So.
No, incredibly important. I appreciate you guys breaking that down for me. And it is, right? It's about how we react to our mistakes, not necessarily that we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love a lot of the things that you guys said, because I'm just taking it right now and I'm relating it to my own business, right? I mean, it's a fine line we have to walk, because great customer service is of the utmost importance, but if you just admit your mistakes to admit your mistakes because somebody's asking a question, not even necessarily accusing you of anything, you start to give back too much and your credibility is all of a sudden questioned. Right. And so, it's a balancing act, and it's definitely a fine line. So a lot of good things there. Go ahead.
And sometimes it's important to figure out who's best in your company to handle that outside of you and let them deal with it.
Oh my gosh, dude, you are speaking my language right now. I'm telling you, I had to hand that duty off because I would take everything too personal, man. I mean, honestly, if especially if somebody like had anything to say about any one of my technicians, like it would be it. I know myself to your point. And I had to take that duty and take that off my plate because my reactions were sometimes questionable.
It's really sad that if you call people back and, like Anthony said, you show up when you say you're going to, and you do all these things that you would think is like common sense. It's really sad that that's a competitive advantage. But there's that many people that don't do that, which is really, I think, what gives some contractors a little bit of a bad rap, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say that. It really is. It's apparently simple but not easy. But like you said, it's you just kind of normal business practice is sometimes enough to outshine some of the other companies in the business, in the space. Which is incredible. Like something like being on time. I mean, I was taught that 5 minutes early is on time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you have to have an amazing and competent field team. I would say that's huge too, because it doesn't matter how great you are at customer service and all this other stuff. If your team's not competent, they don't know how to perform, and they don't do it right, you could be the best salesperson or anything else, but eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Oh,
well, that's where the value is the performance.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, how many field technicians or people do you have in your company right now, if you don't mind sharing?
I think total team members is around 150. I think we probably got about 110 or 120 total in the field, somewhere in that range, between both divisions. So we have, in the service division, we have a home services department, we have a commercial department, and then in Anthony's side, that's the contracting division. And that's just strictly non-residential new construction.
Got it. All right, cool. So you guys have a sizable field staff. And so what are your struggles right now with getting people into the business, even whether or not they have experience? Let's start with like getting people interested in the trade first and foremost. They want to learn it. What are some struggles, and what are you guys doing to overcome that?
I would say that there's many, and some of those have been magnified since COVID with inflation. Even though the minimum wage federally didn't pass, it seems like it kind of did all get jacked up regardless due to inflation, competition from, why would you work in the hot Florida heat if you could go to McDonald's to make, whatever, same money or more to start. So it's been a little bit of a challenge trying to find that younger generation that's interested in learning a trade and learning to do the hard physical work here in the elements in Florida. So we've had to get a little bit more creative and aggressive on moving our starting wage up. We do believe strongly in the apprenticeship program here locally. Anthony used to be an instructor for them. He is on the board still of the apprenticeship program here. With the apprenticeship program, what's great is every 1,000 hours worked, you get an automatic raise. I believe the scale now is when you're coming out, you're making 21 or 22 bucks an hour. We pay 100% health insurance for each of our team members. We have a 401k plan. We offer, what's it called? Short-term disability and paid life. And then there's voluntary benefits for the other one. So I think what's important is trying to offer very, very, very good benefits that, maybe might be typically found in a white collar environment or some of the larger construction companies. Mm-hmm. I think there's ways to pull together and do some different creative things out there. But I think that's important, is to be able to offer, really good benefits. And then I think it's how do you connect the dots from somebody who says, yes, I want to learn plumbing, and how do you get them to want to choose your company, right? Yeah. And so that's where I think we want to get a little bit more strategic, but we fare pretty decently. And I think that's what we have to offer is you can decide later on if you want to go in the service side or if you want to do new construction, right? Typically, we can rotate you between the different sides. It's more benefit to start on the construction side, or at least be able to see some underground and rough-ins. It'll make you a better service plumber later on down the road. And trying to get to the kids early. If you could team up and do something with a local high school or even middle school, sometimes that could be helpful to try to start planting that seed and getting them exposed to the things early. And then I know locally here we have what's called ACT, which is Academy of Construction and Technology. They have a registered pre-apprenticeship program where you're actually able to get some kids that are still in high school to work over the summers. So trying to find where those opportunities exist in your local market, get to the kids and paint the picture for them that you can, I think that the saying is what, earn while you learn or something like that, right?
Yeah, no, that's about right.
Well, it's somebody can come into construction and get an education, and you can usually find, to speak on the apprenticeship, you can usually find an employer that will sponsor you and pretty much pay for your education. They always talk about college and all that stuff, but I mean, you also hear these people drowning in debt and all that stuff. So you can come out making X dollars and you can, be debt free. I mean, I just don't think a lot of people are privy to that kind of opportunity is out there. And, college ain't for everybody, and that's the whole thing. And nowadays, you might spend $400,000 on, student loans and get a job making more than you would have come out of the apprenticeship, or less than you would have come out of the apprenticeship program making. And I think the big thing is being able to, like Charles said, connect the dots and draw, show people how they can get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because, I like to think of college as a tool, right? And the problem is that kids, when they're 18 years old, they're asked to pick from a list what they want to do for the rest of their life. You asked me when I was 18, I wanted to be a street racer the rest of my life. That didn't work out. Spoiler alert. But but that's kind of what we're seeing, right? Whereas if they were to go straight into the workforce or into a trade, apprenticeship, whatever, college can then be used as a tool. Right. And of course, I'm not talking about if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or anything, a surgeon. Listen, I don't want you YouTubing videos on how to cut me open. Right. I want you to go to school for that. But, but for the vast majority of people, this seems like just a more practical use of the formal education. And
100%.
I think it was, and to your point about, making more money, I just posted something on LinkedIn. I think it was last week. Some people got very angry at me, very, very angry at me. But it was a graph showing that net earnings of an HVAC technician compared to a doctor by age 35. And by the age 35, the HVAC technician had netted about twice the earnings as a doctor, $1.5 million as opposed to about $750,000 because of all the student loan debt. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a different perspective, different way of looking at it. But I think that that's a really important story to tell, and probably one that you see quite a bit with your apprentices coming in.
Yeah. If I had it all to do over again, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have gone to college. If I knew that I was going to stay if I was going to be as passionate as I am about building, the path I would have taken would have been to go work in the field, learn, go through an apprenticeship program, and then, as you say, use maybe college as a tool to, if I wanted to expand or whatever, I would maybe do a finance class or do, something specialty, because truthfully, when I was in college, I didn't have anything to relate it to. So until it wasn't until like 10 years after college that I was like, oh, okay, I get it now, it just, I think the number one thing is, if you're going to come into to construction, know how to build, know how to put the stuff together, because that's where the value is going to be now and in the future, and start there. If that's your foundation, you'll be able to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you explain to me, just kind of high level it for me, what the apprenticeship program looks like, how somebody would enter in, and then how they would move through and then eventually come out the other end as a technician or I don't know what you call it next, but that journey?
Yeah. So our program's 4 years. So, you got to be sponsored. It's all merit shop stuff. So you got to be sponsored, and basically there's a scale. So each year there's a survey done, and they say this is the average rate of a plumber, and then they back into a scale for the hours of OJT. Throughout the program, you fill out OJT forms, and once you hit 1,000 hours, you hit the first quadrant. The truth is the way the trades are now is usually you're already making more than that first quadrant. But as you get up, you're starting to see a wage growth and guaranteed stuff. But I will say, there is no, again, substitute for experience. So even though you're in the apprenticeship program or you graduate 4 years of the program, it's really what you put into it, during the day in the field and all that stuff. It's just so critical. There's, that's where you get the experience. That's where you get the true hands-on stuff. And yes, we do hands-on in the apprenticeship and all that stuff. But that's where you develop your passion. And the more passionate you are as somebody young that's coming into the trade that wants to learn, the more somebody's going to teach you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's something that just you can feed off of, and we've got guys here that went through the apprenticeship program and, are quite successful, and, it's because they know how to build and took their career seriously. Yeah. People don't have all the tools to do stuff sometimes. And you're like, if you want to be a superintendent or a foreman, then you need to have all the foreman tools before you're a foreman. You know what I mean? You play to the next level up. You know what I mean? Is what you want to try to do and push yourself,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, and I think what's interesting too, we kind of talk about this a little bit, is the longer you're in something and the better you are at it, you might get to a level that you're really actually not physically doing the work as much anymore, right? So especially on the new construction side, a lot of our guys that have gone through apprenticeship, they can stop at the plumber level and stay there, or they become foremen and superintendents. Now you got to lead people, right? And instead of just leading yourself, you've got, you could have 10 people on your job, you could have 20, you could have 30. I mean, it just depends on what you're capable of, right? And then the question is how do you make sure that you keep everybody else working? How do you keep them safe? Now you got to deal with the general contractor. So to Anthony's point, there's a lot of different opportunity. But if you start in the apprenticeship program, you learn the trade, and you have a good foundation, then you could go in different avenues. And I think with the age gap and the retirement of everybody, a lot of the baby boomers and stuff like that in the industry, there's going to just be even more opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up, because there's a lot of truth to that, and I think it's important for people to understand. I'm curious. One of the elements that we've used is being able to kind of showcase the cool shit that we've done, right? Because there's the perception. Let's take a plumber, for instance, right? There's this common perception out there that, as a plumber, you fix toilets, thousands and thousands of toilets, and that's
Right.
it, and then you die. But that's far from the truth, right?
Furthest from the truth, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, for instance, a few years ago, we had to we're the authorized service agents for a griddle manufacturer, and they had a griddle down in this place called Phantom Ranch, which is the only resort at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. The only way to get there is by helicopter or mule, and so they needed to hire us to come out and fix it. So I was able to send one of my technicians down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and they let them stay overnight. Now, this is a place where you have to book literally 7 to 9 years in advance to get to stay there.
I gotta go register.
I think they've actually switched to a raffle system now because it was getting just ridiculous. But this is one of the things now, unfortunately, I don't have the shot of him, rappelling down off the helicopter in like cool WCE gear, and they sent him down on a donkey, but I mean, it's still a hell of an experience, right? So what kind of experiences like that have you guys been able to showcase? I mean, in Florida, have you guys done any work for any of the stadiums or the theme parks, or something that gets these kids, I'll call them kids, right, excited to be like, holy shit, I had no idea that plumbers did that?
Yes, there's quite a bit of stuff. So, yeah, over the years we've done roller coasters, some theme park stuff, and all that. That's been really cool to be a part of. A lot of people don't know that we do the medical gas in hospitals and stuff like that, which to me is one of the coolest things to do. I mean, it's life safety stuff. It's very serious. It's very it takes a real skilled craftsman to do that kind of work, and it's a good market to be in. We've got, I think, around 20 medical gas technicians certified.
Wow.
You're not even allowed to work on those systems unless you're certified. Even if you're a helper, you're not allowed to do that. So that stuff's cool. We've done a lot of cool hotels, which is really, really neat. You really get into, a certain mentality when you're doing production style work. And it's, honestly, I think it's helped us become a little more efficient as a company, because, that's if one thing falls down, then it kind of, goes haywire on you. So you got to be efficient and on point with those things.
Yeah.
We did a restaurant over water where we were installing piping on boats.
Cool.
We did that a lot. Yeah, and it was dual containment piping, so it was pretty neat. We had to sink a grease trap in water, and I had to have an underwater company help us with the welding, to weld it in place underwater.
Commercial divers.
Yeah. It was. We've seen a lot of cool stuff, and I think that's what's so fun about construction and the trades, is that, you're faced with these challenges every day, and it doesn't get routine, because every project, every job, you're faced with a new challenge, a new way to kind of, I don't know, stretch your brain a little bit, for lack of a better term. And I think, to me, that's what's fun about it, overcoming challenges, and we have a great team here that kind of, frankly makes it work pretty well. So
that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And those are the kinds of things that, I think it's just important for people to know and understand, so they can start to paint that picture and say, oh man, maybe there's an experience here that I could sink my teeth into. But listen, we're running short on time. I want to be respectful of your guys' time too.
Sure.
So I'll move to close here. I am curious, and Charles, maybe you could take this one first, right? What is the most rewarding part of what you do? I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Anything. What is the most rewarding part for you personally?
Well, I would say there's a couple things, but the number one most rewarding part to me is being able to create opportunities for our people, to ensure that we provide, an opportunity for them to, number one, go home safely every day, get, at least 40 hours a week, and that we are a reliable company where they know that they have a future. But the other piece that kind of makes me think about is, when we were kids, wherever we'd go, our dad would look in the bathrooms and be looking at the stalls. And so I think there's this tremendous amount of pride and fulfillment when you're driving around town and you're like, oh, we built that building, or we took, you take your kids to an amusement park and we did the compressed air, or we built this ride, And so I think that's a sense of accomplishment that, you really don't get in a lot of different places. But from the business owner side, I mean, it's being able to provide for your people, definitely.
No, I appreciate the perspective from both sides there. That's exactly what I was looking for. That's awesome. Anthony, how about you?
I mean, it's the same thing, Frank, always told us they're not just employees, they're families, and they're, and that's kind of the way we are here. We're a big family. I genuinely enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy coming to work. Don't get me wrong. There's tense moments, and there's challenges, but I love it. I draw a lot of satisfaction from, just seeing people develop. And there's just a lot of good people in this business. So, I'm pretty proud of where we're at and what we've done, and, look forward to continuing to improve, No,
that's fantastic. And staying with the common theme that I see, in these industries is the people, right? I mean, there are some incredible people in these industries, like you said, I think before, down to earth, and just truly good people who want to provide, and they want to be good citizens, and they want to take care of their family and their friends. And man, those are my types of people.
Absolutely.
No, that's fantastic. All right, guys, listen, where can people find you?
Charles, you want to take that?
Right here. No, what do you mean?
Yeah. Where can they find you, your company, whatever?
We're right outside of Orlando, Florida. Our website is modernpi.com. That's modernpi.com.
Right on. Okay, cool, man. Well, thank you both for spending your valuable time with me today. I know that time is precious. Hang out for just a couple of minutes after I hit the stop button. We'll do a little recap. But thanks again, guys, for coming on the show. I do appreciate it. I know my audience will too.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having us.
All right, take care.